Hey everybody, it's BJ from Yard Breather Outdoors. It's July 2018 and it's that time of year again. What time of the year is it? Well, it's time to get back out there, knock on doors, secure properties for the upcoming 2018 hunting season, regardless of what you're hunting. Me today, I'm out knocking on doors and shaking hands and getting in touch with my property owners that I hunt waterfowl on. For me personally, it's kind of a stressful day and it's an exciting day for a couple of reasons. Number one, the signals the season is coming. Number two, the way that farming is nowadays, people are selling off land, they're getting out of the farming business. It's a tough road to hoe, pardon the pun. And the other thing too is that farmers, they change up their farming practices. So, you might have corn in the field one year, they may have alfalfa in the next, or they may change from soybean to just leaving it grow and letting it sit and I guess rest, if you will, for the next season. So it is what it is. But I actually just came from my first property, and while the property owner wasn't home, I got a hold of him. He remembered me, and he said, "Yeah, no problem. Just make sure you stop in one more time before the season starts," which I can do that. So my number one property owner has given me the thumbs up once again. So I've got some other places I got to check out that were new to me last year. Hopefully I made a good impression and I'll be able to get back on. One of the questions that comes up, and I guess a lot of people are confronted with, is, well, how do you get access to property? I mean, what goes into it? And from personal experience, I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me, you got to knock on doors. I mean, that's the first step. You got to get out of your shell a little bit and meet folks, and the best way to do that is to get out there and do a face-to-face. Calling people is fine and all that, but I'd like to think that they want to put a face to something on the property. Some things that I've come across in the past year, or something that actually was brought up to me and I see a lot happening, is money to hunt on properties. Personally, for me, I don't have a lot of money. I know a lot of folks don't have a lot of money, but what works for me is I go to a local bakery and I pick up some care packages, some nice breads, some pastries, things like that, and I usually drop it off once or twice a year. More often than not before the season starts and kind of at the end of the season. They like that. The other thing I've done in the past too is if I've got some extra birds, I'll clean them up and drop them off for them. So that's one of those things too. I've also heard guys putting in extra time helping with some of the properties as far as chores being done around the farm. That's always a good thing. Another thing that I always try and do too is make sure to keep the property clean, even if I haven't left there or not. The properties that actually I just got the thumbs up on Hunt again this year. He had a bunch of oil cans and beer bottles and stuff like that sitting out there. I was out there coyote hunting and I picked them all up and brought them back. But just some things to keep in mind. Getting in contact with some of these property owners, sometimes it's difficult because they may not live right next to the property they own. One of the things that I've found has been a real big help is an app called Onyx. And basically what this is it's a map setup that has real-time information on who owns properties. It's a lot like a plat book, it really is. But you can also layer it not only with people who own the property, but also if it's public land, if it might be a DNR property, if it's state hunting grounds, federal refuge, stuff like that. Now, the fact of the matter is you can download the Onyx app, but you really don't get into the property ownership and how to contact these folks unless you pay the $40. It's $40 per state. So if you want to get multiple states, then obviously it's going to be $80. But that being said, my experience, it's a great app. You get a good topo map. You got different layers. The thing that I like about it is not only does it show who owns the property, but if you click on it, it doesn't show their address, but it shows their tax, I can't remember the name, but it's basically their tax address, which is where they live more often than not. So you know how to contact those folks. So we're going to keep moving on here. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. Look at this. a nice flock of teal there, I believe. We got gadwalls and teal. Always scouting we are. So, a couple other things to keep in mind as far as property and whatnot. First thing is respect for the property. Obviously, pick up your shells when you're done, stuff like that. But one of the things is also access to the hunting spots. AKA, if I'm hunting a particular part of somebody's property, how should I be going about getting back there? Obviously, if there isn't a trail or something like that. And this is a hard lesson I learned when I was young. From the Green Bay area, I had somehow attained property outside of Green Bay in the Luxembourg area. A lot of good goose hunting out there, and they had Hungarian partridge out there too. But that being said, I used to own a 1987 Mazda B2000 pickup, and one day, instead of picking up the decoys by hand, I actually drove my truck out in a winter wheat field and got it stuck. So, needless to say, the property owner knew exactly who rutted up his winter wheat field, and I lost hunting privileges. So, lesson learned. But that being said, around here, I've got a lot of corn and a lot of soy, and a common practice around here for these properties is they'll chisel plow when they're done with it. So really, it isn't that much of an issue with driving out in fields. But again, it's always good to check with the property owners. So the second concern that I've come across is hunter conflict, and not only hunter conflict, but maybe neighbor conflict. Two ways that I approach this. Number one, if I drive out in a field that I also have, let's say someone else is hunting the property and has access to it, if they're there already, I don't even mess with them. I just leave well enough alone. I should have got up earlier, I guess. That's the way I look at it. Number two, if the roles are reversed and I'm out in the field and somebody drives out and they want to talk to me about it, I let them know, number one, who is giving me property or permission to hunt that property. Number two, if I usually invite them to hunt along with me, and that usually goes two ways. Number one, they're like, oh, okay, which I've had that happen plenty. Or usually they say no. And whatever, that's their decision, man. But it is what it is. The last thing I want to do is ruin my experience by getting in an argument. Some other things. I know that there's a lot of property owners out there that are starting to get burned, I guess for lack of a better term, from quote-unquote guides. Over the past couple of years, what a lot of folks have been doing, I shouldn't say a lot, there's been a handful of guys that fancy themselves as being guides when all they really have is access to property, and will charge guys $150 a gun, bring them out there and put them on property, and depending on your size of your group, walking away with cash. And farmers are realizing that this goes on, and they don't like it. And that's the best way to lose access to properties, by doing bullshit like that, to be perfectly honest. So, just to make it work for everybody, don't do that, man. That's not cool. The other thing that really is a crapshoot when we talk about switching of crops from year to year is not only what's there, but when they're going to cut it. So like this field I'm in here is pretty much a hay field, and I don't know if you can check here, but it's basically up to my knees, more or less. But obviously I wouldn't hunt this right now, but past experience has shown me that usually when it's about this tall, about this time of the year, that they usually get a couple cuts out of it. Last year, early goose season, we hunted here the first Saturday, and they had cut it and they were doing another cut. So, but I mean, that's just something you got to work around with. The other thing in regards to rotation of crops too is I had a really good grass field last year that I did really well opening day on. That they planted all corn on that. So while I've lost a grass early season field, if all goes well, this should be something that should work out nice for late season. So anytime you got that, it's a roll of the dice, man. But what are you gonna do, right? It's all good. Alright, well, we just came from property owner number 2's place and we got the thumbs up. So, it makes me feel good. I've got one more to stop by here and we should be good to go for 2018. Good things, man. It's a good sign. Alright, so this is going to be interesting. So I just came across some property there. I got a hay field. Really, I've got plenty of cornfields, but I want to get on a hay field, especially for early season. And looking at OnX app, I did come across a field that has a name on it that I'm familiar with in regards to my work as a firefighter. So I'm going to stop in there and see what we can do. Never try to get access to this property, but we'll see what happens. What are they going to say? No, that's the worst, right? Keep that in mind. Well, we struck out. The property owner boards horses, and he'd rather not have any gunshots close to the farm, which I totally understand. So I thought that might be a strong possibility for me, but we struck out. So we're we are two for 3 so far. So we got 2 more places to stop at. So that's the way it goes sometimes, man. Well, that's a wrap for today. So we had 5 properties that we targeted. Of the 5, spoke to 3 and got 2 that I was allowed to hunt on that I hunted previously. 1 got no-go. There's a wheat field that I'm pretty hot to get after. Went from the owner to the owner's son-in-law, who, for lack of better terms, is managing the properties, and he gets to pull the trigger on whether I'm on there or not. But I went there, wasn't around, wasn't answering the door or whatever, but that's the way it is. And went to another property and nobody answered the door and they were out working, which is another thing. If they're out in barns, out in fields tilling, I'd rather not stop them. So I guess for those 2 fields to be continued, but that wheat field, I really want to get access to that. Also, I set up the grocery store. I got a tip on another bit of property that might be available, but all things considered, not a bad day. We got some really good property that I got the thumbs up on to get on to. So we'll see where the rest of this property quest goes. But as I mentioned, those are some of the things that I just previously mentioned to keep in mind as far as getting property. You know, number 1, you got to knock on doors. Number 2, you got to pay attention to what they're doing with the property, aka switching out crops. Number 3, you know, be cognizant of how to get back to that property. And number 4, hey, if you're not paying for it, give them some type of thank you, whether it be a gift, you know, helping out with some of the chores on the property, whatever. Try to give back in some way, shape, or form if you're not already paying for it. So the season is upon us. It's coming. I can't wait. 2018 is going to be a hoot. Have a good week.